Hello and welcome to Cool Nerds United. I'm your host, Roderick.
And I'm Amber Marie, back in the fold.
And I'm
Welcome,
Justin.
Amber.
And I'm Kim.
Yes, got a special guest here,
Special
Kim.
nerd guest.
Hello.
Who loves horror movies.
How are y'all doing?
And she loves horror movies. That's why she's
Yes.
here, because she's the expert.
Finally, I can talk about horror in an appropriate time, or where it's socially acceptable during Halloween. So I'm
Yes.
excited.
Happy Halloween. Feliz el Dia de los Muertos. We have a special
Look at you and your
Halloween
Spanish accent.
Bravo,
you,
my
thank
friend.
He said it so
Justin.
fluently.
Yes, he did.
Yeah, I took Spanish 1 3 times, so I
Wow.
should be good at that. So.
I've mastered the word hola.
That was good.
Hola.
Yeah, hola.
Yes, hola. We have a special episode today where we will be talking about horror films, thrillers, scary movies in general.
Dun, 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 dun.
Yes, one of my favorites. So to start off the podcast, let me point out the question to everyone. What's the difference between horror and thriller?
Ooh, this sounds like a critical thinking question on a
I
test.
feel like we should give this question possibly to Kim to
Yeah,
start
Kim,
us off.
you're-
Kimberly,
I'll
go
start
ahead.
off this. Yeah. I think the thing about thriller and horror is that I personally believe that you can have a thriller without it being a horror, but you really can't have a horror without it being a thriller. I think thriller really revelants in the idea of suspense, uncertainty of outcomes for a protagonist. It's just I feel like thriller is just it's too much reliant on its outreach to the audience of being on edge.
Okay.
They want you to be a great thriller. One of my favorites is The Grey. If anyone's ever seen it,
That sounds
That was a
familiar
good
with
one.
you,
Jessica
Good
Biel.
one.
Liam Neeson. You want to see a guy like kill some wolves,
That was good.
but it's I heard you. But I would say is a very thriller movie. But I can't really, and I really sat down and thought about it. I was like, is there any horror film that doesn't use thriller elements? And I don't think so. Like I can't think of any that doesn't like rely on some sort of like
Psychological.
like suspense and fear and
Psycho.
I would say the ones that don't use that are probably going to get hate for this.
It's okay.
No, go ahead.
Maybe, because I just don't feel like this when I watch movies like Jason.
Oh, like
Oh, we're going to slasher.
Like strictly
Almost like a
slash.
comedy now.
I'm saying it's laughable. They're strictly just slasher movies that have no plot. Just,
maybe not like the first Saw, but the Saw sequels where you know what was happening and it was just like in the torture.
yeah, the psychological aspect of it. Like
just gone.
that kind of play with. Yeah, anything that's like slasher related, I would say does not fall in the category of it's a thriller. No, it's not.
I would say that there are some elements. For example, you have like prolonged chase scenes. You have, it's not, that idea. Oh, are they going to get away? Are they not going to get away? The, Myers, the classic Myers theme that plays is when they're chasing each other and the suspense of it. And is Laurie actually going to make it out? Oh no, he got shot for the 6th time, and we burned him alive. But he's back.
Oh, Cindy broke her ankle.
Yeah.
Oh my God, my other ankle.
Yeah. Oh no.
Now I'm dragging myself.
Yeah.
Broke my ankle.
But you know what? I must say, Justin, going back to what you just said a few minutes ago, the first Saw I did like, and the second one and the third one I
Yeah.
didn't too much care for.
Well, it's kind of like, you already know what to expect.
Yeah.
And there's also, when you make a sequel to a very popular movie like that, it's like, was this a cash grab? Or,
It becomes a cash grab.
yeah.
You know,
it's like the first
Saw was
Paranormal
brilliant.
Activity versus the rest
we were
of
talking
the
about that earlier.
Paranormal Activity was brilliant.
Yeah,
it was
it
like a
was.
good comeback from the Blair Witch Project.
Yes.
Yes.
It was brilliant in that sense because
I still have love for that movie,
Blair
Blair
Witch.
Witch. I do.
I can still watch it.
We were talking about that the other day. We were talking about that on Saturday.
I was watching it 2
loved
days ago,
I
actually.
loved it.
And you know,
did?
I was watching it 2 days ago. I still love it because the suspense of the Blair Witch is just so brilliant, and it plays on one of the most basic fears ever, and that's the human brain.
Yeah.
It's like it plays on your imagination because your imagination is the most dangerous place ever.
Well,
And that's what makes a movie great to me. It's not so much as the spectacle of him grabbing a virgin or virgins and seeing how many ways he could slice and dice them. You know, it's the psychological warfare of it all. You know, that's what grabs me.
Yeah, I think that's what made the first Saw movie so great is because the build up to him actually cutting off his foot. Spoiler. The build up to that of him actually cutting off his foot, like wow.
You know what's great is that another thing about Saw that makes it, I mean, I feel people don't give it enough credit. You know, it's a very low budget movie when it came out.
Yeah.
Very experimental. You know, torture and like seeing this kind of idea of it wasn't them dying, it was how they died, and like the elaborate, you know, about like the moral dilemma. You know, like John Kramer, the entire movie is like, I'm not a murderer.
Yeah, the psychological aspect of this.
But
I didn't kill them; they did it to themselves.
He did it and later on the movie, you know, when he had his predecessors, you know, they were making traps that were unescapable, and he would call like Amanda. He's like, "You're a murderer because you never gave them the chance to live." And so, and I love that about Saw because it's not just a force killing people. Saul has this philosophical like conversation like how are you really willing to survive?
Yeah, it questions your morality as a person.
Yeah,
it does.
I mean, people do the craziest stuff when they're put into the most craziest of positions.
Yeah.
Like the real person comes to the surface. A question of who you are really comes out. And like I said, this goes back to that callback of why I like villains so much. Jigsaw. He's like, he truly just doesn't think he thinks he's doing something good by teaching these people a lesson.
It's the best type of villain.
Yes.
You can see from their point of view why they're doing what they're doing.
I'm doing
they're
this to
not
teach you a
doing
lesson.
it just to do it.
Right.
And just to bring back another point you said about the first Saw not being like a big budget film, that's one of the great things about thrillers and horror films is you can have a great film that doesn't have the largest budget. Another one of my favorite, I don't know if this would be more thriller, it's not so much horror, but has anyone else seen Cube or The Cube?
I have. You can't see my hand raised, but I've seen it.
The Cube, I heard about it, but I've never
liked
seen
it.
it.
It was more
I heard it was real good.
Yeah, it was more sci-fi, but very minimalistic. It was kind of an experiment of what can we do with just one singular set. But just to give a quick recap of what the Cube was, you had, what was it, like 5 or 6 prisoners?
Yeah, and they were all trapped in this cube, and they had to find a way out, and each way out wasn't actually the way out. It was like filled with traps or something if they didn't choose the right way, and they both kind of had to use their wit and their minds and all that stuff to try to escape.
So, do you say you think it borrowed some elements from Saw, or was
Oh,
this
no, this
before
was
Saw?
before Saw.
Oh, it was way
This was
before
before
Saw. So
Saw.
anyway, if Saw would have borrowed elements from this.
Oh,
It's very
absolutely.
possible.
Okay,
Very possible.
There's influences.
And but see, I've noticed that a lot of the movies that I tend to like that are horror movie are all low budget.
yeah,
All low budget.
because they have to be creative
Yeah.
with what to scare you.
yeah, if you spend more time actually being creative and the actual story,
Not relying on CGI.
right, not relying on
special
CGI, then you
effects.
actually have something here.
You know what I'm actually thankful for in this new wave of horror? It's very loving the practical effects, which I think makes it.
We need
you
a
know,
call
we're
back
not gonna
to
talk
that.
the dark ages of the 2010s. You know,
Dark Ages.
of the near laughable CGI. You know, but it's
The
I-
Langoliers.
I agree though. I agree that definitely all about that low budget, you know, that the relying on, you know, tension and atmosphere. Atmospheric is definitely something that's making a comeback. It's not about just how like the gruesome or something is. It's about just like how you feel in this world.
Oh, you know what's one of my favorites? The Fly.
Jeff Goldblum.
I like the Jeff Goldblum one,
You
honestly.
didn't like Vincent Price?
I mean, it was good,
And,
but I think I really like the Jeff Goldblum version more.
yeah,
classic.
Yeah.
Just because the practical effects of just the transformation of him becoming the Fly and the slow build up to him. Oh God, it was tragic but also scary at the same time.
Yeah, David Cronenberg, he's a good director.
David Cronenberg.
It
Yeah, David
grosses me out.
Cronenberg. Shout out to David Cronenberg.
It grosses me out, but I could watch that movie 1,000 times, but it still grosses me out, but I love it.
Don't they reference Cronenberg in Rick and Morty?
They do.
Yeah.
That's why they're called Cronenbergs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But speaking of the more psychological thing, and you have to take a movie like Jaws,
Oh
where
God,
Oh, Jaws.
didn't like
Would
it.
you say that's
Oh,
a
yeah.
thriller?
I'd
or
say that's
horror?
more thriller than horror
Yeah.
because
Definitely more thriller.
one of the things that made it more thriller than horror is the fact that they couldn't get the animatronic shark to work.
Yeah.
So they had to build along the psychology of, oh my gosh, we don't know what this thing is that's killing people.
But that
and
played to
eating
their
boats
advantage.
and- yeah.
That totally played to their advantage, and plus, it plays on a lot of people's fears about the water.
Oh, yeah.
You can't see what's
Unknown.
underneath in the water. But personally, I did not like Jaws. I don't think Jaws qualified as, like I said, a horror movie. It's more thriller.
Yeah, it's a thriller.
Right. So I never understood the concept of Jaws. It's like
But
it's a fear that's totally avoidable.
Yeah, but
just don't get in the water.
You know what's interesting?
I never understood that logic.
Or have a spear gun.
Don't go in the water.
You know, and let's take this out. Let's deconstruct Jaws real quick. So
Okay.
Jaws, basically, you know, you have this, you have this group of, marine biology, all these people that are like, all right, we got to kill this thing. We got to learn it, you know, all this and that. It's a megalodon, you know, whatever. And then
America.
If you take away the fact that Jaws is about a shark in the ocean and that it's in the daytime, and you replace it with at night in a scary location with a slasher, how does that all of a sudden make it into a horror movie? Even though all you're doing is like
changing the settings.
Right. We're not changing character interactions, deaths. There's no more deaths. There's no less deaths. It's all the same. You know, that you can even have that climactic ending. He can have a big old tank in his mouth. It don't matter. You know, like but
I like how her southern drawl just came in there. Big old tank in the mouth.
you see what I mean, though. It's interesting how context and characters and settings, you know, can change a film from
mood, yeah.
horror, and I would say that would make it a horror film. You know, that can easily be any slasher film. That could be Black Christmas.
That's actually a very good point because that totally changed it from thriller to horror just right there.
Yeah.
But
Black
either way,
Christmas. It's a classic.
or
Black Christmas.
Yeah. Margot Kidder. was
Yeah.
in it.
or
Did
just-
not care for the remake.
Yeah, the remake was horrible.
Or just to take back on Jaws real quick. I just wanted to say this really fast.
Go ahead.
How do we know that the people weren't actually the bad guys and the shark was the good guy? Because the way I see it, the shark is just doing what he's supposed to
You
do.
gotta eat.
He got to eat.
That's
Fish
like,
gotta swim. Sharks gotta eat.
right? Sharks gotta eat. Like, you're in my space.
And especially back in the when did that come out? Like in the 70s?
70s.
Yeah.
People were like, you know, we didn't really. I guess I'm sure we knew about sharks, but like maybe they were like, man, they're man eaters. They're gonna come and kill you know. And now we know that like
You're
sharks.
more likely to die from a fridge falling on you than a
Yeah.
shark.
You just happen to look like something that they eat, and it's like.
So at the time, maybe it was scary because people were like, that could happen.
Well, yeah, for the 70s. I understand for that time period. But
Yeah.
to me, it's one of those things I will never understand how Jaws is always number 5 on the top 10 horror movies list
Yeah.
on AMC. I will never understand it because it's one of those avoidable horrors.
Yeah.
It's like, just don't get in the freaking water.
Just go back to making Breaking
Right.
Bad. Right.
It's like,
Breaking
I
Bad.
will never understand it. Just like I remember the sequels. There was one sequel where this was so stupid. I cried and laughed so hard
Oh, God.
because the
Sequels
shark
are
actually
horrible.
stalked this one person. I guess I forget which one it was, but the shark actually like stalked this family because it had a personal vendetta against this family. Like, wait a minute, now we're just getting stupid.
Yeah.
Shark Revenge.
Shark's
Jaws,
Revenge.
Jaws is definitely one of those movies that did not need sequels.
No.
Like,
Oh,
It
no,
should have been just
not
a
at
one
all.
film masterpiece.
Yeah,
Because
one
it
shot.
is.
it works.
Its greatest sequel was Sharknado.
Especially with John Williams providing the music.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God.
that,
John-
that minor second interval.
2 notes.
Dun-dun.
2 simple notes.
It's like 2
Dun,
notes
dun,
and you know
dun, dun, dun.
exactly.
John
Exactly.
Williams is actually one of the most recognizable composers. He makes
Oh,
the
yeah.
majority of like Jurassic Park, Indiana
Superman.
Jones, Superman. He's made so many that like it's beautiful.
The only man
His
can make 2
talent for
notes
it.
sound really scary.
Yeah. Dun-dun.
And John Carpenter.
That's the sound of your life ending.
So, talking about all these horror movies and how they kind of define them as a movie. Would you say that any of the really known horror films are like the best one? This might be a
Ooh.
point of contention,
I feel
but like
how we just go around and say what our
Yeah.
favorite or what we think the scariest.
Our
Yeah.
favorite
Yeah.
scary movie.
from any time,
Go for Amber.
go Amber.
Okay. Wow, me first. Okay. I think my all-time favorite scary movie that literally and still to this day scares the crap out of me is Final Destination.
Final
really?
Destination.
That's
You want to
another
talk
of the
about?
more
Not the
thriller versus
sequels,
horror.
just
The
original.
first one?
The first one, not even the second one, just the first one, because it really just kind of set the bar when that fear of flying that I used to have as a kid,
Aw.
which I still
Yeah.
kind of have, but just the idea of being trapped on a plane and then it exploding, and plus the whole idea that death was this force that was just coming to get you is it. The whole concept behind the whole Final Destination franchise was like
It,
it made me paranoid.
I did really like that. I really liked the premise of that death being that force, and it just it skips you, and then it goes to you, and then it goes
It had
to you.
mechanics.
It's like it wasn't an evil being; it was just doing its job. But at the same time, it's like it made me so paranoid after I saw that movie, because I questioned everything that I did. Like, how do I know, like, me doing this right now?
Cheating death.
Right? I don't want to cheat death. I don't want to play this game. If it's my time, just let me go. I don't want to play this game. I don't want premonitions of my death. I don't want it.
I really share that same fear of flying too. I went on an airplane one time, and I literally almost cried the whole flight. But I
have
try
a
to
fear.
focus on the fact that, hey, I'm going to get there in one piece.
And then you have turbulence.
And turbulence hit. I'm like, oh, this is
Stuff
this
like
is a
that.
little bit too much.
Stuff like that makes me think about like people that were on 9/11, God rest their souls,
Yeah.
and just knowing that this plane is going to crash, and you have very moments before it does. Like, what do you do in those moments, knowing that you're about to die, and there's no one that can save you? You're stuck on a plane. It's one thing to be stuck on a train or a ship, but to be on a plane, no one can save you. You're just going to die with the hopes that 1 in 1 million chance you might make it out of this alive. You
Here's
would
a
not.
question: do you guys have a favorite haunted movie? A movie that's based on
Like an
a
actual
haunting of a house,
real
or,
life?
A real one,
or possession of a house, or
Oh, I saw
The
really.
Amityville horror.
Amityville Horror was pretty
Classic
good. The first
one.
one.
I recently saw one that was based off of a true story called Veronica.
Oh yeah, I saw that. That was
Oh,
cool.
yeah.
We talked about that.
Yeah, it's,
recently. It was real good.
It was about this girl who lived in Spain. I believe it was Barcelona.
Yeah.
And there was a solar eclipse, and she decides with a bunch of her friends to, hey, let's do a seance during a
board.
solar eclipse with a Ouija board.
Oh, best idea ever.
Yeah,
How about
and
that? 2 thumbs up. Nope,
She
not
ends
really.
up getting possessed, and this is all based on a true story
Yeah.
that there was this girl who
Don't play with Ouija boards, kids.
played with a Ouija board, started
Ouija
having
board.
Darn you, Hasbro.
hallucinations, and
Darn, that's bro.
yeah, it was. Yeah, it's just. Wait, I thought was it Milton Bradley or was it Hasbro?
It might
probably
be Milton
both.
Bradley. 'Cause I
It
never
might be
played
Milton
with one.
Bradley. It might
Yeah.
be.
I never played with one. Too scared.
I know that it's made by a toy company.
Yeah, no, there's a
Yeah,
toy
quote,
company.
toy
I think it's
company,
Milton
yes.
Bradley.
Yeah.
I think it is. I think it is.
She's saying because she had one.
I think possession
no.
and it goes back to The Exorcist.
Yeah, it's one of my
because,
all-time favorites.
I mean, you
Still
Classic.
scares me.
people are still scared. I've known several people who are like they're big horror buffs, but the moment you bring up the exorcism and all that, they're like, no, don't even bring that film in my house. People are still terrified of it, and I think it's one of the first ones who really breached the idea of having like religious horror and have
Oh,
it
yeah.
so
Yeah.
raw and so like unapologetic about it, and I think that scared people, especially very religious people were very like horrified because
Yeah.
it was a nice like kind of visual metaphor of what their faith believed could happen to
Yeah,
people.
so not to actually see that personified in a
Yeah,
movie, it's
yeah.
like, wow, okay, this is what I have to fear. I'm
a lot
good.
of the origins of religion, though, it's based on that fear.
Yeah.
Fear of death, fear
Yeah.
of the afterlife, fear
Yeah.
of the evils of human
and then
nature.
and then all the things that happened to people on that set in Exorcist, and then of course in Poltergeist when they had dead people on there, and then all the shenanigans that happened with that cast.
You're
you know.
living in a house on an Indian burial ground.
No, they used real dead people.
Yeah, it
Oh,
was
wait, I'm
At
sorry,
the-
what?
Yeah, it was real
Yeah.
dead people.
Wait.
You know that ending scene where they're all kind of like swirling around, and I forgot the actress's name, but she's like holding on to something, but it's a skeleton. That was
I
a
beg
real.
your unbelievable pardon?
It was Joe Beth Williams.
Wasn't there some kind of curse or something? Like all the people involved in that movie ended up dying.
Yeah, Joe
Good
Beth
bit of 'em.
Williams. She
Yeah, that's
had
scary.
a miscarriage. Was it Heather O'Rourke? She died of some sort of
That sounds from
disease that she wasn't able to process her food properly.
Wow.
It was
disgusting. It
and
was horrible.
and it could be our hyperfixation on it because we're
Yeah.
like, oh, well, dead skeletons were involved, so therefore any bad thing that happened was clearly linked to the, But
I know it's highly coincidental.
that could be it, but and what I want to talk a good subject to talk about is a horror film within its own merits, within its own reality and how it transcends into our real world. Like, for God's sake, when you would see a hockey mask, you think of Jason.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what's so brilliant about iconic, and I think that's what iconic means. When you can see something so minimalistic that barely references something,
your mind immediately goes
Jason,
to
Jason Voorhees, or you
Like a
see
scythe.
Michael Myers mask.
Originally used
James
just to
T.
cut
Kirk.
grass.
yeah.
or the regular butcher knife from Scream.
William Shatner.
Yeah,
Oh man.
poor William Shatner. But and it's and that transcendence in a way kind of like solidifies it as a cultural icon.
Yeah.
As
Definitely.
a
That's
as
what
a
makes them epic and just great movies. Like when you have a lasting impression like
yeah,
that.
that transcends generations.
Yeah, like
really.
years and
Generations.
years and years and yeah.
Like
That
my parent-
5-year-olds know what this means.
Yeah.
Like, that's terrible. Like, why do you know, Jason?
Stop talking about that at school. Play your Pokemans. I'll say that. I'm sorry.
No, you're not.
No, you're good.
Out of all the slashers, I think my heart of hearts will always go to Leatherface. I don't know what it is about that big old man.
I think I like that one.
I like Leatherface.
Leatherface. Why?
Because one, well,
Chainsaw?
first.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, so first is based on a true story. Number one, that's what had me hooked in the beginning when I first saw it. You're like, ooh.
He was just a force of evil. The movie starts with him killing his own sister, and that's
Evil never dies. That
evil
was-
never dies.
That's strictly
Even though
what
you got
John
your head
Carpenter
chopped
said.
off
That
and
was
you
the
were
whole
burning,
point.
the
whatever.
whole theme of the whole series is that evil never dies.
And I think that Leatherface, in a way, kind of not only takes that, but he's very unique. It's just it's not another knife or a machete. He took
He's a chainsaw.
He's a chainsaw. He has a very unique way of branding how he kills his his survivors. His whole backstory. I like the banter he has with his family and them like sitting at a table and
Yeah, there's a sense of normalcy for them, actually.
yeah, like it's
And there's something really tragic about him, too, that I like.
very tragic.
That's almost on the level of Jason, which I think is a bit more tragic than Jason.
Huh.
I mean,
That makes a lot of sense.
yeah, because he was born, I think, with a deformed face.
Yeah.
Which is why he peels off the face of his victims and then wears it as his own.
Poor
So,
thing.
yeah, there's a certain tragedy to him. I think he was actually created by his family.
Yeah.
I don't think he just personally.
Inbred. He was
I think
Hey, he could have been inbred.
I
I,
think
don't
he
know.
was inbred. I will say that, however, just because he's my favorite, I would still say out of the three iconic ones being Jason, Jason, Freddy, Leatherface, Michael Myers. There's so many of them. I would say Michael Myers is probably the most raw energy because he's the only one that doesn't really, if you exclude the Rob Zombie movie, he doesn't have a backstory. He just comes into this.
Yeah.
He's born killing, and then he's just unkillable, and he just does it. Nobody I don't think he ever talks in the film.
No,
he
he
never
doesn't.
talks.
It's funny that you talk about that because we were just talking about that earlier about how characters don't have a backstory. It kind of makes them more terrifying.
Yeah.
In
you
a
don't
way,
know what their motive is.
we don't know what their
So you
when
don't
you
know how to stop it.
Like
right.
the
We don't know.
Creeper.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like the creeper. If we don't have a backstory, we don't know what he wants. We don't know how to kill him. We don't know the whole 23-year rule. We don't know anything about that. So
Yeah,
it's like
like
it
the
makes
Creeper.
him. Yeah, it makes them 10 times scarier. Which I agree. Michael Myers is like he is just a force of evil. We don't know what he wants, and I just got a little scared just now thinking about it.
Human curiosity and human intuition and all this and that is the reason why we evolved and became the species we are today. And to have something that we can't understand, can't process, can't even reasonably understand why they're doing it is, I feel, terrifying to our core because
that is
that's
terrifying.
us as why we're on this earth. That like understanding. And if we can't understand something, it's terrifying.
That is a very terrifying concept. The ability to not be able to understand the motive of a character. That's,
Well, that's the same.
So you don't know
thing
how to kill it.
You don't know.
That's the
You
same
don't
thing
know.
with the Creeper and Jeepers Creepers.
Yeah, so I argued with my boyfriend about this in the third movie that I didn't like it because I wish they had expanded on, okay, what's the creeper? Why does it have this 23-day limit of killing people? Why does it only come back every 23rd spring? I want to know what this thing is.
But that's it.
But
That's enough.
he explained it to me like, I think if they actually told us what it is and if they actually gave us a backstory and all that stuff, it probably would take away the fear factor of the creeper.
Well, it's like a magician never reveals
Yep.
his secrets.
Right.
It's part of the
Don't
code.
explain the
Good
magic.
point.
Don't explain it.
I mean, because in the third movie, they did find out what it is, but they never revealed what it is. So now I'm kind of like, maybe I don't want to know what it is, but I still kind of do because that's just me. I need to know, like, what is this thing? How can we kill it?
Yeah, that's so true. And you know what? That's what took away the excitement and the mystique of Freddy Krueger. When they started doing
His backstory.
backstory, it kind of ruined it for me. The very
became less
first
frightening.
one was excellent.
Yes.
I mean, especially the part when Johnny Depp, I like Johnny Depp, when he gets sucked into the bed.
Oh,
And
God.
then they
One of the cringiest moments I've ever seen on a movie. Oh,
I will
blood.
And I like Johnny Depp. Nothing against Johnny Depp, but that scene was really gross, but it was powerful.
slasher films, people understand that they're movies, that they're fake. None of these are real, but people still take that with them, and they're still afraid. And I think, and that's what's so fascinating about horror films. It is the only genre that feeds into something that's not even good for us. Being scared is a defense mechanism, but we
we're hardwired.
actively try to act. We criticize a movie by not being scared enough. We want to be scared to the point of just like going home and having the lights turn on, having your Bible kind of tucked under your pillow that you haven't read in 6 years.
Why am I getting scared right now?
But it's so, and that's what's so fascinating about horror, and I think it's something to briefly mention is that it's kind of like why do we do it? Why are we so fascinated and so willing to actively go against a defense mechanism
The rush.
for entertainment?
Well, yeah, the endorphin.
The
Yeah.
endorphins,
Yeah,
the
the
adrenaline.
endorphins.
Some people get off on being afraid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like just the adrenaline rush, kind of like jumping off of a cliff diving. You just
Yeah.
want the rush of being afraid. You want the rush of going into a haunted house and being terrified.
Well,
Quite
it's
frankly, I
just
don't
like
it.
roller coasters or
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you get high off of being scared.
I think it's definitely, and that's a big part of it too. But I will say that horror films are definitely one of those like y'all said, it's for the rush of it. It's for I want to be afraid. And I want to feel like this thing is gonna follow me home, and I'm never, like
I'm getting like really uncomfortable because my mind is like acting up.
you're like, oh jeez,
I have to be alone in my apartment tonight.
oh I'm
no.
sorry, I'm sorry.
You don't at least have a cat with you?
Yeah, I do. That's what he's kind of there for. Like, if he sees something, then I know something's up.
Sees evil. I thought cats were pretty chill, they're just like sup, like dogs will be like
Casey better become a
barf,
guard
barf,
dog.
sniff, darf, there's the thing, barf, borf, and then usually the film kills them, and then you have like a cat just chilling.
The cat knows what's up. Like,
Cat knows what's up. Hey man.
I have a big question for everybody. Okay, so this was brought to my attention. Does today's society affect the shock value of horror films?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes,
Oh, it does.
culture is very much.
Yes.
When you look at a film, you have to think about the time frame. Like if we watch Psycho, it's not scary. We watch it and we're like, we appreciate its artistic, its historical value.
Alfred Hitchcock.
Yes,
Yes.
we appreciate it, but does it scare us? No.
So would you say that we're completely desensitized,
Oh,
like someone getting their head chopped
Not
off
at
or
all.
getting their guts ripped out? So if we watch a horror movie, does it lose its shock value because we see it on a regular basis now? Because you can see that on Facebook Live or
If anything,
World Star. So it's like, I know World Star, right? No, I'm just saying you see these things on a regular basis.
Yeah.
So when you go to see a horror movie and you see this stuff happening on the big screen, it's like, does it have the same effect as it would have?
if anything, I feel like it has to. Horror films now have to be on a higher level psychologically because the on-surface blood, guts, and gore, since it doesn't affect us as much since we see it
Yeah.
Man, I remember there was like a time period when I would just like see like people would like share like these terrorist videos of people like cutting heads off. I'm like, why
Yeah.
would you share that and post
And it becomes
that?
a
But-
normal thing. Like, okay,
and you just
whatever.
have to like block it and whatever. But yeah, you're when you're used to seeing it like that, you have to you have to elevate the horror film that you put out to be on more of a psychological level and less on a visual level.
And you know,
a
it's
higher
funny.
expectation.
Yeah.
It's funny that you mentioned the psychological because I was having a conversation with someone earlier. It's like, yeah, we do have to elevate our standards for what horror is. And since we're bringing up psychological, I have to bring up movies like Get Out.
Yes.
Oh my god!
Yes.
Yeah.
Get
Terribly
Out.
scary movie.
Should
And
have
The
won
Purge.
movie of the year.
And the Purge.
yeah, The Purge.
The Purge, really.
Anything
Should
that
have
hits,
won
too
movie
close
of
to
the
home.
year.
yeah.
I'm
anything
still
that hits
salty
close to
about
home
it.
now, I think is qualifies as scary. To anything that's real.
I will say that the last Purge film should have been the only Purge film.
That should have been the Purge film. That should have been the
Purge
because
film.
The
It
concept
explained
behind it was
That was the first Purge, right? Where
it was called the First Purge or something like that.
There was the Purge, and then
Right.
the recent one that came out was called the First Purge, which is
Right.
the very beginning of this social experiment called the Purge. Yeah, the Purge. And I like this one better because it really kind of made you think, like, you know what? I could see this happening. Because the way they rigged the Purge was they started getting rid of, like, the welfare groups,
Yeah.
the people that were, like, on
It would have been
Section 8, things like that. Like, they were getting rid of these minority groups. They were trying to manipulate the system in such a way
Right.
where they
Just
got rid of
the
these
thought
people.
That is very frightening to me.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It
Very
hits so close
frightening.
to home, which what makes
Yeah.
it terrifying.
And you know they went into like how when it first started, people were just kind of dancing in the streets. Nobody was killing each
And
other,
that's when
and then they sent sleeper agents in there to start killing people.
make
and
it
then,
seem like it
and
was
then
working.
and then people felt like, oh, well, conformist biased. Well, I guess I got to start killing people, or if they don't kill me,
Arms
you know.
race.
They
Gotta
played
start
on the
stocking
psychology
up
of people. What was that? What was
Wow.
that group thought? They played
Yeah,
on group
they
thought.
had to,
and
and that's
hive mind.
Yeah,
and that was it was so good.
that
And
should have
I'm
been
like,
the first
that should have
Purge.
been if that was the first one.
They would have done excellent. I mean, I love
Because
the
it's social
concept.
commentary.
Yeah.
It transcends from based off of his, a psychological thriller. If people just randomly could kill somebody, I guess they
For
would.
one day
like
a
no,
year for 12 hours.
Yeah, I guess they would.
That should
That's
have
what
been
it's
the initial
spoofy.
pitch. This should have been the initial pitch because it was a huge social commentary. This is something
Especially
that I can see
nowadays.
happening now.
Yes.
With all that's happening with a certain toupee wearing orange son of a gun. So I can see that, especially with the minority groups. I can see them thinking, okay, we need to save money. We have to wipe out certain groups. So we're going to put this purge into play and play it to our advantage
Pit the
by
lower classes against each
put
other.
the lower
Right.
classes against each other.
Exactly.
I can
Top
see them
always
doing
wins.
that and do it. Like they were actually bribing people into actually participating by promising them a large sum of money if
Yeah.
they survived the night.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
at the same time, they were killing off these people
Yeah.
so they wouldn't have to pay them.
No, I agree with you. It's definitely the best purge.
That was-
if you
that's-
just see that one, that's all you need.
Yeah, any movie now, I think, like I said, you can't focus on the slasher, the blood and guts. Now you have
Yeah.
to really play with actual human fears. The Handmaid's Tale, we'll talk about that with you all the time.
Oh, yeah.
That's terrible for women. That's
Yeah.
like my real fear.
Yeah.
That's Pence's
Margaret
America. I
Atwood
said it.
has mentioned that everything that happens in Handmaid's Tale has already happened
Yeah.
in another culture.
Yeah, she
or
wrote that in
another
the book.
place.
Everything
Yes.
she wrote has already
Possibility.
happened.
That is very terrifying. And
Yeah.
So,
So anything in this day and age that could actually like happen now or is too close to home, that's scary to me now. Nothing
Yeah.
that's gory and blood and guts scares me anymore. It's like the stuff that's too close to reality.
Yeah.
Like right next door, like this could happen tomorrow if just by this a single. It depends on who's in office. It depends on who's running things. You can change the law like that. Mm-hmm. And that's a scary thought to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, Get Out should have gotten the award. I mean, like, yeah.
I believe it
Should have gotten
too.
best movie. I
Best
get it.
original
People
script.
people like The Fish. I don't know, but I'm just saying.
The fish.
Del Toro lied in his interview. I didn't see
Wait, are
no
you
fish
talking about the Mermaid
genitalia.
Man? What was that
Yeah,
name? The-
Shape of Water.
I saw that once. I will never see it again. I'm done.
just saying, Get Out was way more. Anyway,
He got the award because he's Guillermo del Toro, whatever his name is. I can't say his name. But it's like The Shape of Water was just so. This is so awkward for me. I don't want to watch fish sex. I
but
don't-
but Get Out was a nice take on horror. I would say it's definitely. It's got horror elements.
There was a deep psychological horror to that movie.
Yeah,
I think that movie
Very-
played on a lot of black male fears,
yeah,
Yeah.
or just black people in general, like the fear of. How should I say this? Like people that want to be us but
Yeah.
don't want to be us.
Yeah.
If that
Yeah.
makes sense. Like you want all our best aspects, but you don't want our struggle. If that makes sense, I'm
Yes.
trying. Yeah,
yeah.
So you want all the good stuff. You want, yeah. That's how I took it.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
yeah.
it was definitely
Yeah.
socio-cultural horror.
Yeah,
And
that's what made it scary.
and I was going to get to this is that horror is so the great thing about horror is you can be so experimental.
Yeah.
And then you just got to keep doing all this random stuff and wait until something sticks. If you keep doing the same thing that's already been done, it's kind of like, oh, well, that's just another horror film. It's just not that, another Exorcist film, great,
Yeah.
But, oh, look, the cross turned upside down. Oh, my God, I've never seen that
Oh, no,
before.
demons in the
Doll's
house.
coming to kill us.
Oh, no,
The
the
kid's talking to
doll.
something that's not there.
Oh, no.
The dog's acting crazy. Now it's dead.
Yeah, but that's why, like Get Out was so memorable because it was so different. And it worked.
And that's what we need.
And that's what we need in
But
horror.
that's why I wasn't in such a hurry to see the Halloween movie. Like, oh my God, I'm done. I don't want to see more. I want something different. Scare the heck out of me, please.
I think that's more for like fans. You know, just to
that
see
was
it
totally
again.
fan service.
Yeah, like just to see it again.
We need the movie. We need money.
Yeah.
Let's just push out another Halloween movie because you
mean,
can't lose with a Michael Myers.
It goes a little bit further than that once you see it, though. It goes a little bit further. I thought that at first myself, but when I went to go and see it, I said, oh, this speaks about what's going on right now with the Me Too movement without giving too much away about the movie.
Oh,
Yeah.
snap.
So, yeah,
Bringing Me
you
Too
saw
into
a
the Halloween
lot of people in there, mostly females. I took a little quick survey. I'm like, wow, you don't see a lot of guys in here. You see more females. And I love Jamie Lee Curtis. I think she gave a wonderful
She's an
performance.
old lady with a shotgun. Hello. I would go see Halloween
Jamie
just
Lee
for her
Curtis.
because she has a watchtower
I love
by
how
her
like,
house with a rifle.
well, I loved how like the whole like marketing was like, I'm going to kill Myers, and I'm like, what? What?
Again.
What? Again, yeah. Again.
So I highly recommend to go and see Halloween. It's really good.
I'll see it just for Jamie. Just for Jamie. I just want to see an old lady with white gray hair wielding a gun and try to fight Michael.
My personal favorite horror film of all time. Of all time.
I think I already know.
You already know. It's the 1982 The Thing by John
Yes.
Carpenter.
With Kurt Russell.
Kurt Russell with that beautiful head of hair.
Back when he was hot.
He was gorgeous.
That was a gorgeous man.
The thing about The Thing,
It's a thing.
so it's based actually based off a short story. I believe it was a short story called Who Goes There.
Yeah.
So it's not technically an original, but there was a lot of interpretations, adaptations to it to make it its own identity, and it was so beautiful on so many levels. The
I can see the
masterwork
tears
of
just coming down your
just
face.
like the cinematography of it, the idea that the thing itself was so theatrical. It was all about the spectacle. It was all about the effects and seeing all like the way it took form and misshape. But the best part about The Thing, by far, is the paranoia. The Thing is not scary by itself. It's great effects, but it's all about the paranoia.
Completely
They
agree.
were literally going like, how do I know you're not the Thing? You can be the Thing. Childs, you're the Thing. No, and then they'll kill him, and then they did the blood test. Oh, you're a murderer. He wasn't the Thing. And it's like, yeah, well, sucks.
Yeah, I think that was the strongest aspect about that movie was the paranoia. The thing just added the extra layer of fear to it.
and
Man
every
versus man.
Yep.
and every character did and it wasn't the cheap writing of, oh, let's have characters kind of do dumb things or kind of like, ooh, we're gonna go to this haunted mansion, but we don't believe in ghosts, therefore it's gonna be okay.
All right, gang, let's split up.
Yeah, let's split up.
Fred and Daphne will go this way. Skaggy and Scooby.
Every character action done in that film. I rewatched it
How many times?
so many times.
I watched it about 10 times.
Yeah, so like every character when they do an action, it was all like it made sense. When they realized that the moment they would get out, it would end the world. I believe it was Windows. No, Blair. It was Blair. He started, bashing everything. He killed all the dogs, and he was like, "We're gonna die with this thing. We can't leave."
can't
And they
get
started
out.
burning all the bodies, and the only time people died was either through fatal mistake or they didn't know an aspect of the thing, which. And that's what I love about, and all the characters are so memorable. They're written like people. They're written as like smart, actual scientists, biologists, engineers that they all were.
People that act like real people.
And the ending, yes, and the ending was just so wonderfully done. I would say that's The Thing, the best one.
Okay. Well, I have to
I would
ask
say
you.
that,
I have
too.
to ask you, since you saw the original thing, what did you
Yeah.
think of the remake?
Okay.
What's
all
missing?
right. Here's the thing.
The thing about the thing.
Yeah.
The thing about the thing. Okay.
So a lot of people. Okay, so
It
you're
was
talking about
missing some key elements.
the thing about it is that fun fact, the I had a lot. No, let me start like this. They had a lot of respect for what they were doing. It was a prequel. It was about I believe Switzerland base
Yeah, it was
that the dog
Switzerland.
was running from, and they were shooting from the helicopter. It was a prequel to when they discovered the actual alien. And they were very they were making sure everything made sense. Everybody died the way that because the original one, they went and they saw all these dead bodies. They made sure everybody, everything, including who was put, the axe that was in the wall, like everything. They were very much respectful of the film. And a lot of people, the big thing was like, oh, the CGI is awful. And it is. But fun fact, it was all supposed to be in practical effects. The big majority of the film was in practical effects, and then when they screened it for Universal executives, they told them to cut it all out and put CGI.
Yeah.
You can actually look up. No. I saw the original footage, or the original effects they had. It was amazing. The practical effects were
They
awesome.
literally sponged it and said, no, we want the CGI.
It was originally supposed to come out in April, and that's why it got pushed back to October.
Because they wanted the CGI.
So not only did
CGI.
they wanted CGI, and that's why not only is the CGI not just doesn't look good, but it was rushed. It wasn't
looked
rendered properly.
unfinished. It did
It was awful. But you can look it up at any point. Just look up the Thing prequel special practical effects, and you can see it's amazing work they did. And I really do feel bad. And I guess because maybe they didn't want to pay for it. Maybe they didn't want to pay all the artists that would have to come on the thing. I mean, because they only
It
did.
sounds like a big money issue.
It is.
Kind of like his mustache, Henry Cavill. Yeah, I said it again because I still thinking over that mustache. But anyway,
But I think
funny.
the prequel had they definitely started out with respecting the film and obviously having a love for it and the practical effects, and that's what they had in mind. But unfortunately, it comes down to executive meddling. People taking the artistic integrity out of it and being like, nah, we don't want to pay for that. Just slap some GIFs on it. Yeah, that'll be fine.
I like gifts. But yeah, the bottom line just seems like it all just came down to a money issue. Like everything, like money overrides creativity, unfortunately.
One of the main special effects people, practical effects, went and did a GoFundMe for I think it's called Harbinger Down.
Yeah.
And he successfully funded it. I don't know if it came out yet, but apparently No, I think it did because I remember hearing a lot of people saying it was really good. So, and apparently he uses all his nice practical effects in it. So if anyone wants to see like a nice little funded film.
So on a scale of 1 to 10 compared to the original, how do you feel about this one?
The prequel, if I take it at face value and I didn't know anything about it and I thought it was an active decision, I would say it was a 6. I think the big thing about it was the thing literally revolutionized in practical effects and body horror. And the fact that you create this film without that integrity and without that shadow, or at least that homage to that, is kind of sickening. But when I know that, and I do know because I looked into it because I was very disappointed, and when I did learn and I saw the love they had for this film, that you have to see these effects. They were amazing and they looked great, and they clearly had a passion for it, but. Unfortunately, like you said, came down to money, came down to execs being like, nah, scrap it, put stuff over it. And I would give it, it's just as good because I really feel out for them as an artist, like how they just, they were told no.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you because now when you say that to me, because when I saw both of them, I honestly liked the reboot just as much as the other one. I did, but now that I know this, it's like, wow, that
makes you kind of sad.
It does, because like, wait a minute, you actually sponged the original practical effects because of a money issue? Let's be honest, it was a money issue.
It had to have been.
For CGI. CGI does not fix everything. It does not fix everything.
This was the dark ages of 2010s. So,
have you seen the dinosaurs in Jurassic Park? I'm talking about 1993 Jurassic Park. They still hold up. Yep. Jesus Christ. Like, are we serious?
That's my favorite one.
CGI does not fix everything.
Yeah, the original is my favorite.
Beautiful movie.
CGI mustaches, CGI, they just don't fix anything.
So, Justin, what you think?
Think like favorite horror film?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah, we need your favorite horror film.
Ooh, favorite horror film. I'm just gonna
Election 2000. No.
Yeah. I'm gonna
Space Odyssey.
I'm just gonna take it back a little bit and go with the Creep Show, the first Creep Show.
Creep Show was
George A.
great.
Romero.
Yeah.
Why is that your favorite?
So I like the fact that it's not just like one story. You have 5 smaller stories in one condensed film. I think Stephen King is in it. You have a lot of other cameos in it.
Yeah.
I think Leslie Nielsen has a appearance in it. It has a little bit of humor to it, a little bit of the thriller aspect, a little bit, just a little bit of everything for a horror film. And some people might consider it now to be a little bit silly, but yeah, I'd have to go with Creep Show.
I like it. Yeah. I like it.
What
it
do you?
sounds like. Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, it's fine. How did it contribute to the horror genre?
Critical thinking.
Like
question.
what makes you really like because it's your favorite.
Yeah.
So there has to be like a really like distinct there's something unique about this one.
Well, I think Creepshow kind of was the first to bridge that gap between, like, is this a funny film or is this a scary film?
Okay.
And
It
also-
didn't take itself too seriously.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
It was one of those self-referential, hey,
Yeah.
let's take the horror genre, but not be too, like, over the head. This is a parody or
Too
satire.
dark and
I
gritty.
like horror comedies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same thing with American Werewolf in London, which came out in 1981. John Landis is the director of the movie, and David Naughton starred in it. It was,
Yeah.
man, I still watch that movie to this day. I'm gonna go home and watch it tonight. Matter of fact,
It's like you can tell that there was fun had with making this making it. So
And I think that and you make a good point is that, you know, unfortunately there are films and media that do take themselves a little too seriously.
And it shows.
Yeah,
like, they
and
bomb.
it's always nice to have that moment of levity, that moment of, oh, thank God, like, okay, guys, we know it's a guy in a mask, like.
I like when they poke fun at themselves.
Yeah, like you know,
when they
like,
know they're in a horror movie. like,
yeah, like it's a nice levity, and so I agree
Yeah.
with you that it's always a nice way to balance things out.
Oh,
and
most
and
definitely.
I will say this, that movies like that, I haven't seen the movie, but I'll go
Highly
watch
recommend it.
I will watch it.
Yes.
But I will
Very
say
good.
that very scary, dark, or even, you know, traumatic experiences that happens to movies and characters really look great compared to really light moments. So like if you have a very satirical movie or you have a very light kind of movie and then all of a sudden it kind of goes plunging deep, you know, you're like, oh Jesus, you know. But then like if you start out from the deep and you just kind of walk along, you know, the Trenton, you know, and you're just like doodle doo, and then you're
Oh
like,
my
oh,
God.
you know, I've seen the same squid like 100 times. You know, you get bored. You get bored. There's no
We're gonna need
point
a
of
bigger
levity,
boat.
and it just makes it all look. It's just mundane. It's you know, like doodle doo. You know, here I go up.
Doodle-doo.
I'm going down a little hill. Up, we're going back up on the hill. It's still dark down here. I can't see nothing. I think I bumped into a whale carcass. Like it's. But no, and I like that because movies need to not take them. I think horror films do not need to take themselves too seriously. I think there do need to be points of levity because it makes those scary moments even scarier.
But I think studios are
I
kind of
agree.
afraid to do that, actually, because they're all about making money at the end of the day, which is
Yeah.
why I think we're afraid to take chances when it comes to certain films, which is why they remake certain
and
films.
that's why a lot of ones that do take chances are very low budget.
Exactly why it makes what makes them so good, because I watch a lot of horror movies on Netflix.
Oh, girl.
Ah.
And they're brilliant. There's this one I saw not too long ago called I cannot talk, called Clown.
I heard that was
Killer
real
Clowns
good.
from Outer Space.
No, it wasn't Killer Clown.
classic.
That's a good one, but that wasn't it. It was literally called Clown. It was the basic premise is that this guy, it's kind of standard. He finds
Yeah.
this clown costume because the clown that his wife hired for his son didn't make it, so he finds this old clown costume and he puts it on, and for some reason he can't take the clown costume off, and then we find out that the
no.
costume isn't actually a costume. It's
That's
it's the costume of a demon.
Chlorophobia, one of those.
I mean, you should take a look at it. It's really low budget. One of those movies like, wow, okay, this is really cool.
That's some SCP kind of stuff, man.
Yeah, this is why I really like Netflix, because they really take on these small projects.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're actually really good. And this is what big studios need to be doing. Like, hello, take some chances. I mean, I know they're worried about the whole money aspect, but
Yeah.
sometimes you got to take a chance with some of these.
Train on Busan is good.
Yes.
Train to Busan. I'm sorry. That movie is excellent.
Oh, yeah.
A good way to know that you're in for a good horror film is if you see that Sundance in the beginning. You're like, oh Jesus.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, it's about to get real freaky in here. No, like, you know what? Speaking of Sundance, a really good film. I would say this is my second favorite horror film, tied with The Thing. Very close is The Witch.
Oh, The
think
Witch
I've
is
heard
good.
of
Which
that.
is so good. It's a folk horror, and it's incredible. It's definitely about it's about this family that leaves their little town. This is back in like 1600s, and they're just like, well, I don't agree with the church. Well, you get to leave. Well, fine, we will. So they do, and then they go out in the middle of the woods, and let's just say there's shenanigans that goes down. It's great. It has a lot of wonderful themes, a lot of coherent character arcs and commentary on all of these characters of like, oh, we're supposed to be God's people, but they all have their own vices that they later come to right before some of them die. Spoiler, and it's beautiful, it's great, and it's on Netflix. So please, I saw it twice in theaters. Please go
The
see
Witch.
it.
Okay,
The
you
Witch.
recommend The Witch. I'm going to recommend The Midnight Man.
The Midnight Man.
I just saw that
Midnight
recently.
Man.
It's another low budget movie. It's one of
These
those
low
creepy
budgets.
demon movie. Only you just got to watch it.
All right.
It
Train
scared me
to
a little bit.
Busan. I recommend.
Train to Busan.
Train to Busan.
Which would I recommend? Tusk.
I saw that.
I heard that was good.
That was the Human Centipede all
gosh.
over again.
Tusk.
Oh,
It was
Human
only.
Centipede?
It was.
Justin Long is great in a horror film. I did not expect that, but it works.
I saw all 3 Human Centipedes. When I watched them again, I saw Tusk. That was like the Americanized version of the Human Centipede.
You would look at the Human Centipede.
Because I have this OCD thing where if I watch the part 1 of one movie, I have to watch the others. I did that
They
with
got me
Twilight,
again,
and I
guys.
did that
Finish
with
what you start.
I have to. It's a thing. I did that with Twilight, and I did it with Human Centipede. I won't do it again. It's either one.
You've been through some. You've seen some things. Man.
I've seen some. Oh my God! Feed her.
The centipede.
Mouth to
Tusk,
butt.
I agree.
Oh,
Tusk. And my favorite part is when it's all over, and then the guy who like turns it is just sitting next to him. And Morris is just sitting there.
Oh gosh,
And
Wallace the Walrus.
Yeah.
It was more sad. It's like I kind of waited for that movie to end too because it dragged on too long, in my opinion.
It had some torture elements in it, but
Yeah.
but I think it also was kind of satirical. Like
It was.
For sure.
the idea itself is satirical. They're just like this Sunday, get ready, Tusk, and then you're
Haley
like,
Joel Osment is in it.
Oh yeah.
yeah,
I can't take this seriously.
Still looks the same.
he looks the same.
Just cute in the face with chunky cheeks. He has chunky cheeks. He's also banging his girlfriend, even though he's banging everyone else. And that's fine.
Oh.
Spoiler alert, but that's
Yeah.
like such a good one. Yeah, that was definitely an Americanized version of Human Centipede.
Yeah,
Just with a walrus. When they were fighting each other with their giant
Oh
tusks.
my gosh.
Oh, we need your favorite movie.
My favorite movie would be the original Halloween, 1978.
Myers.
Okay,
Why?
now
Classic.
the critical thinking question. Why is it your favorite? You can't just say it. You have to say why.
Well, the reason being is because I love the fact of how Michael Myers embodies the shape. He's
Yeah.
not just like nothing against Jason, but I like the fact of the suspense of it. You know, the fact that it was more of a thriller than a horror.
He's
Now-
a stalker.
Yeah, he's more.
That
he's-
Well,
you down.
World's greatest stalker.
He's not Leatherface like pirouetting with a chainsaw screeching. He's in the background like stalking Jamie Lee Curtis and
the
just
force
kind
of evil.
Force of evil.
You
And
know
you
what
can't kill him.
You know what I think is scary? If we actually find out what he looks like underneath that mask.
I think that there are some
They
films
did
that
show
do.
him.
Yeah, that do show him.
I don't
in the
remember what he
first
looked
film.
like.
In the first film. Yeah.
I don't remember what he looked like. I'm scared to know what he looks
He
like.
just looks like some generic white guy.
Oh. He's not gonna take
With
it
a
off
scarred,
and be Chris Hemsworth.
with a scar-
No, dude,
eye.
Chris Hemsworth. Wow,
Like,
you're beautiful.
Plot twist, it's Chris Hemsworth under there.
He's just like, hey guys.
If it's Chris Hemsworth, I'm game. It's fine. It's totally fine.
No, they like lifts the mask. It's Jamie Lee Curtis, and she wakes up.
Then it becomes a psychological
And
thriller.
then she's just like, oh man, I gotta work
It was
through
within
that.
me.
It was I
It
was
me
the
whole
shape.
time.
Now it's a psychological thriller where she was the killer all along with split personality disorder.
You
But,
definitely
like,
got to see the new Halloween. You got to see it.
Yeah,
It's
especially
really
because you brought up
good.
the whole Me Too thing. Like, oh my God, really?
It's really good.
Really?
I
the
think
way they bring it in is very subtle, but it makes you think.
please,
Is there a nod to
please let
Cosby?
me know that they're not gonna do the whole like
A nod
Myers.
to Cosby.
Like, are they gonna?
Now you're making this a whole comedy now.
like,
They're not.
the
they're-
Jello shots. Sorry.
Wait a minute. Oh.
They're not. Can you at
Okay.
least promise me that they're not like implying that Myers is some sort of like sexual
That's
deviant?
please tell me that's not what it is.
Oh God.
You got to see the movie. You
Now
got to see
I'm
the movie.
nervous because now I'm afraid
Yeah,
they're gonna say
see the
Michael
movie.
Myers.
Then I
like some sort of-
automatically hate that guy. Why they gotta do it like that?
No, I'm
They
just
didn't give him a
saying,
backstory.
You can
today.
be a scary, awful thing, but not be like the worst.
I don't want to ruin the movie.
That's
I
one of
know,
the
I
big
know.
And I'm
things that I
pretty sure
hate.
the listening audience haven't seen the movie either.
Okay.
So
okay.
That's
I
one of the big things that I
advise,
hate.
I'm sad. I am
I
deeply.
suggest that you go and see the movie. It's very
I
good.
swear to God, if they make Michael Myers
'Cause
a
then
sexual predator, and that's like one of the biggest, worst things you could possibly do to make someone
think-
horrible and evil is make them a rapist. It's like, don't you do it.
Well, and I think it's because it's so prevalent, and like you said, it's very political
Yes.
charged. And I do like that they are incorporating, culturally what's going on in our day. Because then when people look back 20 years from now, they'll be like, oh, okay, yeah, that was a big movement.
But in
and
Yeah.
this movie,
historic.
though?
But
no,
I do
I'm not
agree.
going to say yes or no to that.
Well, here's the thing, because
I know that sounds very political in itself.
You know,
It
if they
sound
were
like a
to-
politician.
what they could have done? They could have. I know,
I
but
don't want to ruin it.
they could have easily done that with Freddy Krueger, he was a child molester, and they didn't really and that's always been a thing since the beginning, but they didn't really talk about it until
it was an unspoken thing.
It was until the newest one. They were very blatant. They didn't show anything, but they showed like his lair, and they showed
subtle about it.
You could be subtle about it, and then but the thing is, you already have these licensed characters who are already like that kind of messed up, and we've already accepted that. Like you can't that's the whole point of Freddy, is that he was a terrible human, and then he died in this fire, and then became this horrible thing. And you're like, okay, like that's why he was an awful person, and that's why he's suffering the way he is because how he horribly hurt those children. But to take Myers, a very very nice just force, and then kind of, because I feel like in a way that humanizes him.
It does.
That does, and I think that's why that kind of makes me a little upset, because it's like, that's very humanizing.
That makes me think he has feelings. Like, you're giving him. I can't explain.
I like the idea that
changing him who he is as a character.
You're giving him another layer
and it could be, and like I said, I haven't seen it. I will go see it, and I will be more informative. And I know people are listening might not know, but I'm pretty sure that a lot of people have talked about that, because I'm pretty sure that's a very not controversial, but definitely a point of talking about.
Yeah,
and we won't, and obviously we're not going to ask you to go into what happens, but I agree that it does radically change how we look at a character. Because we have that idea of like that silver screen to be like this disbelief of like, oh yeah, like he's killing people, but it's not for real. But then you get into this idea of like, like the Me Too movement and sexual assault and all this, and then you're like, oh, that makes him a little too real.
It's a little traumatizing, actually.
We'll have to see it. We can't really judge it right now. We can't count our eggs, but I definitely believe that. I'll have to. It would have to be pretty dang good for me to be like, I'm totally on board with this aspect of Myers. And it could be like bias. It could be like, on pedestal bias. Like, no, you can't change him. No, he's beautiful the way he is. I don't like change.
I must say, in all honesty, they really don't delve that much into it.
But it's
there. They allude.
Okay.
To the fact that she is a survivor of this incident.
Okay.
And it has caused her to
Did they kind of retcon
be a hobo with a shotgun?
Girl, that's goals.
I'm just saying, like, she's an old lady with a shotgun. Like, I ain't taking no crap.
In the way they paced the movie, it was wonderful.
Okay.
And you could tell it was John Carpenter's blueprint right there.
Yeah.
And all they did was like go by, hey, this is what we're going to do. We're not going to change too much because it's beautiful the way it is.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm slightly intrigued now to go see it. I'm a little bit curious.
I think to add depth to a character that from the design was very minimalistic.
Okay.
Is a very tricky. It's a very fine line, because you can either add too much and humanize them, or you can add just enough, and it's like, okay, I can accept this. So like I am gonna I'm judging too fast. I'm gonna go see the movie with open ideas, being like, okay, let's delve into this. And but that's the thing when you add these elements into it, like the new It movie. I don't think it had anything too political. I don't.
No,
believe.
it didn't. Not at all.
It didn't.
It was very by the book, actually.
Yeah, I think very child ripping arms and everything.
They actually went by the book that time.
They were like,
okay.
yeah, no, no fade to black.
They left that one particular scene, thank God.
Can I?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank God. We can't put that in the movie. No way.
Which is why I don't think Stephen King's that great of a writer.
Even Stephen King was like, no, we can't put that in there.
Right.
Boy, you wrote it.
I wrote it, but I don't even want that.
Boy, you
in
made
there.
millions off that.
I did, but I don't encourage this. No. But I did want to touch on. Okay,
But did you?
She wrote it.
But you literally wrote it.
What was your state of mind when you wrote that?
I don't condone these I can't do it.
But I did want to touch back on when you said Freddy Krueger. Like, it was mentioned that he was a pedophile, but
Yes.
it was already implied that he was.
Yeah.
So I think,
from the get-go. Yeah.
right. So I don't like when things are spelled out for me when writers or directors or whatever spell things out for me, because I feel like you don't trust your audience enough to actually figure things out.
Yeah.
Because I'm a less is more type of person. I like to put things together myself.
Yeah.
So when you just blatantly put in my face, oh, well, he was a child molester, then that kind of takes it away from me.
And luckily, and they did it tastefully. They didn't show anything graphic. They just showed like his den and like the remains, which was like,
and you can already put the pieces together. But it's
you
like,
put the pieces together, and even the characters dwell in it. They were like, oh my god, that's sick, you know. And then it was before Quentin and her go into and fight him for. It gave the characters courage. So in a way, it was definitely a way to be like, no, we have to take him down. Look what he did to these.
That
people.
was a Me Too movement.
Yeah, and it was great. Because it was actual character motivation, and like you said, it sounds like this is a very character motivated. It made Laurie, I guess, more
inclined to kill.
Right, and like we said, we're not going to go into too much spoilers and what happens and how it goes and what did happen. But I agree that to add such a human element to a character like that, and especially a very relevant. Very, very sensitive topic now, and to be like, oh well, he's already an evil character, so let's make him even more evil. It's like, I mean,
I don't like that idea.
But then there's a degree of pandering that you don't want to.
Right,
you're trying to use the social problems of
you gotta watch. It's a fine
to make
line.
a buck.
Yeah.
That's what I feel like. I feel like because you're throwing in this Me Too movement, I feel like you're really just trying to play on people's pain in order to get more money,
which is not good.
No, that's what it feels like.
Like I said, it makes them too real. Because then you have
it's traumatizing.
You do make care because we have that disbelief that Myers isn't real, but now we're adding the idea that
he is real.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, but like.
Okay, so any final thoughts? Anything else you want to add? Random noises, random commentary, words of encouragement, quotes.
Stephen King wasn't that great of a writer. But that's a whole nother podcast.
Misery. Okay,
you can have
Misery was good. Okay, he gets one.
I love that.
Paul Sheldon. You've never heard of Paul Sheldon? we could do a whole episode on Stephen.
Not my Misery.
And we will.
Yeah. I guess the last thing to talk about is horror. Like, where's horror going? Where's the genre going?
Personally, I'm going back to the psychological. Like, they can't keep doing what they're doing. You got to come up with something new and fresh because.
And I'm
desensitized to everything else.
You want something
That's
fresh and new?
I think
check out Netflix series The Haunting on
You told me about
Hill
that, and
House.
I'm scared.
You were like, you came in the door like, listen, listen, and I'm just like,
look at that look on Gavin's face.
Yeah, he knows.
That sounds too close to the House on Haunted Hill or the Haunting of Hill House. The Haunting.
When he told me that,
far better.
When he told me that, I was like, oh, is that like some haunted house down the road? Like, where's that on Telegraph? And he was just like, no, I was on.
You would say Telegraph right where I live at. Right?
It does sound like an Arabist place. Like, wait a minute.
Ooh. But but then he was like,
yo,
you need to see this, man. I mean, it changed my life.
I'm not watching it tonight, that's for sure. We're too busy talking about horror
I'm
movies.
so scared. I'm not watching it tonight either. I'm going home and watch The Office.
Yeah.
I'm watching an episode of SpongeBob. That always makes me feel better.
SpongeBob, yeah.
I have to watch something happy after I watch a scary movie.
Podcast on
we can do
SpongeBob.
Oh, please.
Singing the fun song. Because I have to watch
friends who do stuff together.
You is for you and me.
Do y'all think that as experimental as horror is and how refreshing it is and how it'll always change, it is adapting, it's always evolving with us as a culture.
Yeah.
Is our current what we have right now compared to the old and compared to everything we talked about, what do we have now? Is this something we should be proud of? Like, as our culture be like, yeah, like, like our parents are like, yeah, y'all don't know horror. I grew up with Freddy and Myers and, Leatherface. Do we have that same staple, or are we just relevant in the past? We have so many remakes.
In the past, definitely.
We have so many remakes, but we don't have a lot of IPs. I will say Jigsaw is becoming
relevant.
He's very relevant. I think he's definitely going to be like, oh yeah, like Jigsaw back in 2010.
Jigsaw's the only character I see now that's becoming an icon. But
He's
other
iconic.
than that, it's like we're still going back. Like I say, we're not trying anything new. Jigsaw was the only character that actually kind of stands out as far as 2000s go.
Yeah. So is there any other iconic character?
I would say the Creeper. He's a low budget one, maybe. I don't know.
Candyman. And
Candyman's in there.
Oh yeah, Candyman. But how often do you hear Candyman?
I would like to see them do a remake of Hellraiser too. I love
Hellraiser's overdue.
Hellraiser.
We will tear your soul apart.
Yeah, Hellraiser's
When did
overdue.
was that 80s? Late 80s?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
87.
And a remake of Children of the Corn.
I was talking to
girl, you bringing
someone
up Stephen King
earlier
again.
about Children of the Corn. I was talking to somebody earlier about Children of the Corn. That was cool.
The ending, good old Stephen King ending, just a random ending, and then it's anticlimactic. I don't
That
know
is
how he
Stephen
does
King,
it, but he
though.
does it. The Mist is good. I'll give him that.
That
The
was a
Mist
messed
is
up
good.
ending. If he had waited 2 more seconds.
Okay,
2
here's the
more
thing.
seconds.
You know, fun fact, and I'm sorry. Fun fact. This is why Stephen King is a hack.
Oh my God, woman.
The original ending. No. In the books, they just go. They drive to a house and they camp out for the night. That's how the movie ends. Like I said, very good about that anticlimactic ending. The film, it was the director's idea to end it that way. So he gets all the credit. So
Yeah.
I don't care when people are like, Stephen King is so
That was
mind
actually a
blowing. I'm
good
like, shut
ending,
up.
'cause it
Do
was
your
so messed
research.
up. It was so messed up. If he had waited 2 more seconds for help to arrive, then finding out, wait, I just killed my son and everyone else in this car.
That, and that is why that film is so iconic. It's those literal last 30 seconds.
if he had just waited a little bit longer,
And it's
like,
beautiful.
ugh.
They did such a good job. I love that.
All right, so we ready to wrap up?
Yeah, let's wrap it up. Justin, you want to have last words?
Last words.
So long, farewell. La vida, say goodbye. Adieu. Adieu.
Last words. So, as we wrap up this Halloween episode, this horror and thriller as a genre represents the deepest and darkest fears of the human condition. And as that human condition changes and evolves and grows throughout time, so does the reflection, which is represented in this genre of horror and thriller. So I'd like to say that when you go out and see and watch your horror films and really reflect as those films reflect you and think about how does this represent who I am, who we are as people.
Well said, my
Well
friend.
said.
Yeah, I was running out of notes.
Beautiful. No notes. Oh my God.
Did it live.
We did it live.
Right here
I
in Cool
saw it.
Nerds Unite.
Very inspirational. Loved it. Okay, so shall we close?
Close.
Once again, thank you for joining us here on Cool Nerds Unite. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. You can listen to us on SoundCloud and iTunes. Follow us on Twitter and any other social media that you can think of, Instagram and Facebook. Write a review. Tell us how much you love
Yes.
us and hate us. Mostly love us.
Love
Just
us.
love us. Always love us.
Love.
Nah, give me that hate. I feed off that
We
bitterness.
love reviews. We
Yes.
love reviews. We want to know what you guys think of the show. We want ideas for new shows. Just tell us what you think. We love different topics. We want to hear from you. We might even read your reviews on the air and make you embarrassed.
Yes.
Live.
I'll say your full name and your maiden
Your
name.
whole name. Wait, the maiden?
Live on the air.
All right, so once again, guys, thank you all for listening. And remember,
Stay nerdy.